She was restless, her unwelcome confinement giving way to a coma, not quite ready to complete its pall on her senses. She gently rocked back and forth between consciousness and unknowing, like a rowboat caught in undulating waves. She could see half darkness, half light in those unknowing times. The light compelling, clean, the darkness beckoning, hideous. She knew to pray at the crest of those waves, although words could not reach the surface. She had fitful dreams of perilous choices, where it seemed she could feel the lure of the shadowy vortex, but then a whispered luminescence would sate each pore in her body, assuaging her fears, allowing sleep to finally make its entrance, a welcome visitor to a body ravaged by disorder. She was in the throes of such a fitful dream when she felt herself being hoisted up through the layers of murky consciousness by a tenuous graze on her forearm. She struggled against the breakers threatening to take her tumbling to the depths again, fearful to open her eyes, not wanting the reminder that day was like night for her. She uttered words left unanswered, the only reply a fateful spreading heat in her veins. We now step from bizarre truth to fabled fiction. The cast of characters: Noor, my continuation and the Muslim woman I always wanted to be; Nate, her non-Muslim brother / nanoscientist; Carl, his greedy, evil, covetous boss. Carl's mentor is the long-dead but still notorious gangster John Dillinger. Carl's childhood in a small Midwestern town parallels this illicit hero. Carl's evil threatens to spill over on all like a busted sewer pipe. Noor's Egyptian husband Hassan sadly dies after partaking of his afternoon tea. Noor has a job at an ad agency. Her oasis there is her prayer rug in the supply room, and she takes every opportunity to subtly teach the staff about Islam. This day the lesson is that the earth is actually egg-shaped, per the glorious Quran. Carl's only concern with his lab is nano-weapons to be sold to a surly pair of shadowy men, nicknamed Heckle and Jekyll. Noor and Nate's mom was a hardy woman who knew her way around cooking on a wood stove and finally succumbed to pancreatic cancer. Noor one-ups her scientist brother over dinner with the time of accessibility of repair of the fetus in the womb, information she learned from an unlettered man in the desert 1400 years ago, long before the microscope. Nate discovers a molecular dissembling device and DNA manipulator through his research. Carl is deviously elated. Noor and her friends commit to Fajr prayer at former theater / Masjid al-Fatiha. After Friday prayer, it's a trip to Abu Amin's colorful and endearing Middle Eastern market. Carl gleefully toys with the two jokers in trench coats about Nate's discoveries. They are threateningly interested for their higher-ups. They say they need a human subject to test these to expedite the process. Noor's friend is approached by a Muslim man, Ahmed, interested in marriage to her. He seems sweet and sincere. Nate invites Carl to the lab room to watch his latest experiment, a nano tumor dissembler. When the rat is injected, the tumor disappears, but she eventually turns to green goo. Nate is appalled. Carl is quietly ecstatic and vows to steal this formula and the video of the results. Noor finds an old journal of her mother's painful illness and death. Noor opens a poignant conversation about death with Nate. He says dust. She says real life to come. This turns out to be a premonition. Noor finds out about his lab discoveries. He speaks of carbon buckyballs, while she plays out Nano's worst-case scenarios, two being weapons the size of bullets and gray goo. Ahmed's mother makes a feast with grape leaves one of the items. She wants a nice Syrian girl for him, but he tells her about Noor. She is not happy. Noor watches a fascinating and man-building video of the glowing creatures under the ocean. A commercial comes of the starving children of Somalia, and the lunch in front of her is untouched. She vows to help somehow. She is informed of Ahmed's intentions, agrees to meet him at his home. She will bring Nate, but knows he's an American and has no rules around dating, only go for it. Noor finds an ugly, angry mole on her arm during wudu at work. She is alarmed, but decides to treat it with aloe to tame it. Noor finds a quote about stepping stones of ordeals. She will soon be tested with this. Carl doesn't have to steal the formula in the leather case. Nate innocently asks him to store it, and the video of the experiment in his office safe. When he leaves, Carl immediately calls the shadowy figures, and this pair of magpies shows up at his door. Carl wonders if this formula works like Pac-Man. Carl wisely lies about having the formula to save his life. He knows they would kill him for it. Khawla, the famed Muslim Black Knight, becomes a favorite story for the children. Noor chooses the more modest outfit to meet Ahmed to please his mom. Nate keeps calling himself her walleye instead of wali, but does a beautiful job at Ahmed's home. Noor feels a sweet tug in her heart for Ahmed. Noor later has a strange eclipse of the eye at work, gets an eye exam, and is referred to a doctor for more tests. The doctor finds more ugly spots and puts a diagnosis forth of FAM, or mole melanoma, connected to Noor's mother's death by pancreatic cancer. Her joy quickly turns to stoic sadness. Carl finds out about Noor's illness, feels like his prayer was answered for a guinea pig to test the formula. Noor lies to Ahmed about her illness to keep him from pitying her. His heart is broken. Noor decides that she wants ruqya, the reading of the Quran over her illness. Nate blows at this, and she promises to research radiation. It is not an option after reading about Hiroshima. Noor's friend talks to her children about Noor's illness, the hereafter, and the angel of death. Carl gets in financially deep with a tough loan shark. Ahmed hears of Noor's illness, and she finally agrees to see him. Noor has the powerful ruqya and is stronger in heart as the colorful waves move through her, but is weaker in body. Ahmed visits Noor. Her light shines through the dark lesions marring her face. Their hearts quietly bond like gold on the wing. Noor gives him permission to go through this with her. Noor's breathing later becomes erratic, and she requests hospice and then goes into a coma of sorts. Nate tells Carl about this and can't seem to gauge Carl's unusual reaction and is bothered by this, but shrugs it off. Noor's friend finds a cheery red and yellow poppy for her room. Ahmed is with her when she finally awakes and asks if it is day or night. Ahmed knows the melanoma has taken her sight. Nate comes in and sees this and breaks down. Noor realizes that life is always slipping through our fingers. Carl makes his plans for an unwelcome visit to hospice and his guinea pig. Noor has a much-needed honest talk about death with Ahmed and sees her white shroud as a fresh coating of pure snow. Noor describes death as a butterfly leaving its dark and cramped cocoon. It doesn't look back and simply flies. Carl goes to the parking lot of hospice, calls Nate and convinces him that he needs a break, sees him leave and enters Noor's room. He plunges the syringe with the formula deep into her vein and pulls out the video camera. Noor's eyes blink madly and her tumors begin to disappear. Nate comes back early and sees the leather case, syringe, and camera, and it all falls into place for him, but Noor begins to shake violently like the rat did in the lab, and she flatlines. Carl runs out. So, what of Carl's final vanishing point? What about Nate's future? Is there a life now for Ahmed? Wait for it.